This week, America is, well, let's just say, if you open Google Maps right now and typed in end times, it would probably drop a pin somewhere between Gaza and Mar-a-Lago. Let's talk about what the hell just happened. In Gaza, aid trucks meant to feed starving people got ransacked while Israel bombs the strip into a dust bowl and the UN's like, yeah, we're out. This humanitarian collapse meets Hunger Games, live and unsupervised, except it's a reality show. Meanwhile, back in the land of mass shootings and vending machines that charge $7 for trail mix, a 12-year-old kid got expelled because a classmate misinterpreted a drawing as a threat. No context, no assessment, just immediate ejection. But hey, it's America. Either we overreact or we don't react at all. And of course, Trump's back like a bad sequel, launching billion-dollar space defense plans, threatening international peace, pardoning rappers, cutting science funding, and apparently trying to slap his name on the Library of Congress. Does he even read? Yep. Welcome to the news cycle, where logic goes to die, billionaires go to tweet, and we go to make sense of it all. Let's begin. So, let's talk about Gaza again, because somehow, it keeps getting worse. This week, more than a dozen aid trucks carrying food and medical supplies into northern Gaza were mobbed and looted by desperate civilians before they even reached distribution centers. We're talking flour, canned goods, and powdered baby formula snatched off trucks by people who haven't seen a full meal in weeks or longer. Now, on the surface, it sounds like chaos, but let's not pretend it isn't manufactured. When international law calls for protecting civilians during conflict, and instead you cut off water, food, electricity, and fuel, people will do what they have to do to survive. But here's the twist. After the ransacking, the United Nations suspended food deliveries to the region. It basically said, it's too dangerous now. Y'all gotta figure it out. Oh, so now, that's the red line we can't cross. We watched entire hospitals bombed, entire families starved, but apparently some stolen sacks of rice were the final straw. Good to know that the UN has limits. Everyone needs boundaries. Look, meanwhile, the Israeli military claims that Hamas is stealing aid for fighters. Palestinian officials say that's false, and if it is happening, it's not on the scale that the IDF is claiming. Either way, the people in Gaza are caught between two forces with very little interest in nuance and even less interest in actual relief. Let's be clear, this is state-sanctioned desperation. And when you force people into survival mode, then punish them for the behavior that survival mode demands, you're not enforcing order, you're enforcing cruelty. This is the part of the war that doesn't make the both sides arguments easy. It's not about strategy or diplomacy or ceasefires. It's about children fighting over biscuits in the rubble of what used to be their neighborhood. And I know some folks will hear this and say, well, they shouldn't have attacked Israel. To which I say, sure, let's debate the politics, the history, the nuance. But while you're doing that, a mother just fed her toddler salt water to keep him from crying himself to death. And what's Israel's latest plan? A buffer zone inside Gaza's borders that they're bulldozing into place, literally carving off another chunk of land while folks are still burying family members in the backyard. At what point do we stop calling this self-defense and start calling it what it is? Systemic, unchecked annihilation. If the global community truly cared, they stop playing referee and start acting like someone's actually bleeding on the floor. Until then, more aid will get blocked. More kids will starve, and more trucks full of food will get mobbed, not because Palestinians are violent, but because they're hungry. Literally, just hungry, not metaphorically, not ideologically. They need food or they're going to die. Okay, now we're heading to Tennessee, because what's a week in American news without a school story that makes you question if we even know what education means anymore? Here's the story. A 12-year-old student in Tennessee was expelled permanently after another student said he drew a picture that might depict the school shooting. No formal threat assessment, no investigation, no chance to explain. They just kicked him out. He's gone now. Now here's the wild part. Even if the kid had done it with malicious intent, the school didn't follow its own process. Tennessee requires schools to conduct a threat assessment before deciding on expulsion. That didn't happen. They just hit eject. And that's where it gets messy, because here's the thing. I get it. We've covered more school shootings on this show in 6 weeks than most countries have had in the past decade. Kids walk into classrooms wondering if they're gonna walk out. We're so deep into the trauma that now every hallway needs an armed officer, every backpack is a threat, and every drawing could be a warning sign. So yeah, I understand the panic. But when we throw out procedure in the name of protection, we start rewriting what freedom actually means. And if the only way to feel safe is to treat children like potential terrorists, are we really safe, or are we just conditioned? Here's the paradox. Freedom doesn't mean much when your daily reality is fear, and safety becomes a slippery slope when it costs kids their childhood, their trust, or their right to due process. We're just ignoring the first 10 amendments these days. And look, somehow the solution is always more metal detectors and less empathy. What Tennessee did isn't just a policy failure. It's a cultural failure. We've normalized violence so deeply that even art doodles and misunderstandings trigger lockdown level consequences. Let's not act like this kid was drawing up blueprints for a hostage crisis. He made a picture. You don't need to throw the book at him. You need to ask what the hell is happening in our schools that makes anyone draw violence in the first place. But this is the cost of the world that we have built. We're reacting with brute force to problems we created by neglect. And honestly, that expulsion wasn't about one student's behavior. It was about the system trying to feel in control again. After years of headlines, visuals, active shooter drills, and bulletproof backpacks, someone said, not today, not on my watch, even if it meant throwing a kid's immediate future into the trash to do it. So now I'm asking you, what do you think about this story? How do you feel about school shootings? Do you think that kid being expelled made anyone safer? Let me know in the comments. Okay, let's pivot to something less violent but equally unhinged. Elon Musk is stepping down from DOG, the Department of Government Experiments, or Twitter's spiritual cousin, depending on who you ask. Now, DOG isn't a real department, but if it were, Musk would have chaired it with a flamethrower in one hand and a meme generator in the other. Instead, what he's actually stepping down from is his formal government advisory role, which he somehow treated more like a Discord admin gig than a job tied to national stability. According to reports, Elon's White House farewell was chaotic, described by one insider as a cross between a locker room bro hug and an HR incident. You got backslaps, a near fist fight, someone yelling about Starlink, and Musk handing out freedom coins as a joke. Or maybe a prophecy. Look, it's classic Musk. Leave just enough ambiguity to get a Netflix series greenlit by Friday. Or just pay him $1 billion. It's like he got in the White House. But the bigger question is, how did this man get to shape policy? Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. This isn't about left or right. It's about picking people who are actually qualified. And America can't keep running this executive branch like a group project where the weird kid gets to pick the PowerPoint theme. And there's nothing wrong with being weird. I just don't want you picking the aesthetic. No, look, we don't know exactly why Elon bounced. We have a lot of ideas. Maybe he was bored. Maybe he got kicked out. Maybe the final straw was Trump pitching a Golden Dome space defense system and Elon realizing his name wasn't going to get on it. But here's the takeaway. This isn't just a resignation, it's a retreat. The same people who wanted to colonize Mars, redesign transportation, and reinvent freedom now can't even stick around to face the fallout of the system they helped create. So, Elon left the chat. And just like that, the richest man in the world reminds us that accountability in America is optional, especially if you can launch a distraction into orbit.
So, I was like disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the Doge team is doing.
I actually thought that when this big, beautiful bill came along. I mean, like, everything he's done on Doge gets wiped out in the first year.
I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both. My personal opinion.
So now I'm asking you, what do you think of Elon and the dog organization? Let me know in the comments. Atan Emil Balou died this week. If that name doesn't ring a bell, let me fill you in on why the Christian right probably just popped champagne. Balou was the French endocrinologist who developed mifepristone, better known as the abortion pill. A man who literally changed global reproductive rights with one chemical compound. While American politicians are arguing about heartbeat bills and fetal personhood, Balou was busy handing women a choice. And now he's gone at 98 years old. That's right, 98. The man lived long enough to see his work legal, illegal, legal again, and then dragged through courtrooms like it was smuggling cocaine across state lines. In America, we don't even make washing machines that last 98 years. But this man's science survived not just decades, but ideological warfare. Let's be honest. There's no better symbol for the absurdity of our reproductive debate than this. In France, Balou is mourned as a pioneer of medical ethics and human autonomy. In America, half the country treats his legacy like a felony. A pill designed to be taken privately, safely, and early in a pregnancy has somehow become more controversial than most handguns. We're banning books, banning drag shows, and trying to criminalize the 200 milligram pill, but the guy with AR-15? Second Amendment, baby. Look, Baloo's death is a reminder. Science can liberate, but politics can always hijack the wheel. And we've let that hijack happen in real time. Over the past year, courts have targeted the abortion pill like it's a national security threat. Meanwhile, the same politicians crying life begins at conception are cutting food stamps, blocking maternal health care, and stripping down every safety net for actual living children. So, rest in power, Dr. Baloo. You made choice possible. We just haven't figured out what to do with it. Just when you thought Earth was safe from new disasters for at least 1 week, the sun said, bet. A massive solar storm is set to slam into the planet this weekend, and not just in the poetic Mercury in retrograde type of way. This one's real, it's happening, and it could temporarily disrupt GPS, power grids, satellite comms, and basically any tech we desperately rely on but don't understand. The NOAA issued a G4 severe geomagnetic storm watch, which sounds like something out of a Marvel movie, and honestly, that might be where we're headed. Scientists say this solar flare, or a coronal mass ejection if you're nasty, could spark northern lights visible as far as South Alabama and Northern California. So yes, we're all one bad sun sneeze away from becoming extras in a sci-fi movie shot on an iPhone 4. Now, is this the end? Probably not. Will it cause mild to moderate chaos? Most likely. Will someone's crypto wallet randomly disappear into the ether while a 5th grader's drone crashes into a Taco Bell? Highly possible. And what's the government's plan? Oh, they don't really have one because unlike UFOs, this is real and we don't have anyone to shoot it down. But this story is a metaphor, isn't it? We live in a society where billionaires are trying to colonize Mars while the actual sun is threatening to unplug the Earth. Our systems are fragile, our grid is ancient, and we keep acting like they aren't. Here's the bright side though, literally. If the world ends, at least it'll look absolutely stunning while it happens. So grab your popcorn, folks. We've got front row seats to the Northern Lights and possibly the reboot of civilization. Now, wouldn't we like that? Welcome to the Trump dump, where we take all the Trump stories that dropped this week, flush them into one big swirl, and see what kind of shape the sewage takes. Yep. Let's start with the daily briefings, because apparently Trump's running his campaign like a reality show reunion special. According to insiders, they're a chaotic stew of vibes over facts, spontaneous threats, and barely legal policy previews. Picture a staff meeting led by your least favorite uncle after 3 shots of bourbon in one Rogan episode. And out of that steaming pile came this gem, the Golden Dome Missile Defense Initiative. Trump's trying to build America a new space-based missile shield, think Star Wars, but dumber. He says it'll protect us from every nuclear threat on Earth. Bold claim, especially since this violates international space treaties. Could provoke China and sounds like something Elon Musk would accidentally tweet after taking Ambien. Now, let's pivot to Harvard, because even America's top nerds aren't safe from the Trump era. Over 1,000 Harvard scientists released a letter blasting Trump's recent research budget cuts, calling them life-endangering. These are the people working on things like cancer treatments, climate modeling, infectious diseases, boring stuff like saving the planet and humanity. Trump's response, something about woke science and real Americans don't need graphs. Meanwhile, Trump has floated the idea of rebranding the Library of Congress because when you're not reading books, who better to oversee a national archive of literature? He wants a wing or a monument, depending on the day, that reflects his legacy. We already have one. It's called January 6th. But it gets better. Trump is on a pardon spree. Trump has been handing out pardons like Oprah on a bender. You can get a pardon. You get a pardon. Everybody gets a pardon. And yes, he's even floated pardoning Diddy. And he floated NBA YoungBoy. Look, somewhere the ghost of the Constitution is doing a Harlem Shake out of confusion. Now, I kind of support the NBA YoungBoy one, but he's giving pardons to Larry Hoover, founder of the Gangster Disciples, the Chrysleys, who went to jail for bank fraud and tax evasion, but looked great on cable, and a rotating cast of ex-politicians who apparently earned their get-out-of-jail-free cards with loyalty points. And while all this was happening, he also pulled a tariff U-turn. After agreeing to reduce steel tariffs with the UK, he slapped massive new ones on everybody else like a discount store bouncer with no memory. If foreign policy were a dating app, Trump's America is the guy who texts "come over" then blocks you mid-ride. Just to top it off, we're not done. The Rolling Stone expose dropped on Trump and Musk joint press conference meltdown. It was supposed to be a farewell. Instead, it turned into an ego clash featuring insults, technical errors, and one moment where Musk reportedly walked out mid-sentence. Think Real Housewives, but for fascists with Wi-Fi. So, what ties all this together? Unpredictability, narcissism, and absolute power with no accountability. This isn't even politics anymore. It's a full-blown Trump content machine, and the worst part, it works. Every press stunt, every legal gamble, every space war scheme keeps his base loyal, the news cycle churning, and the rest of us asking ourselves, wait, Can he actually do that? Because he's doing it so proudly. Because the system isn't built to stop someone like Trump. It's built to assume people care about rules, shame, or libraries. And I think that it's very clear that he doesn't care about any of those things in no particular order. I don't. Libraries might be his least favorite. Look, so the Trump dump rolls on, louder, messier, and somehow more surreal. It's exhausting, it's terrifying, and yes, it's funny. Not because it's harmless, but because if we don't laugh, we'll lose our minds. This week felt like the world dared itself to be dumber, and somehow it cleared the bar with room to spare. What a talented world we have here, right? Look, we've got starving families raiding food trucks while the UN walks offset. We got schools that treat kids like threats, but treat real threats like paperwork. Billionaires resigning from government like it's a group chat they got bored of, and Trump turning presidential power into a punch card. But here's the truth. This chaos is not random. It's the system doing exactly what it's built to do. Protect itself, reward the loudest, punish the vulnerable, and call it liberty. That's why we do this show. Because laughing at the fire doesn't mean we're not trying to put it out. It means we've got lungs left. So until next week, stay sharp, stay loud, and stay dangerous to the people who profit off your silence. And remember, it's the Adonis Black Show, the only news show where we laugh to keep from crying and then organize while they're still underestimating us. I'll see you next episode.